Hey, Todd, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be on your show, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'm super excited to have you on the show. How you feeling today?
I'm awesome. It's great to be alive. I'm thankful for what I get to do with Racing for Recovery, and I'm honored to be talking to you today.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, folks, today we have Todd Crandell joining us on the SHAIR podcast. Todd is widely recognized as a leading expert on substance abuse. He has overcome a 13-year addiction in drugs and alcohol. He is the founder of Racing for Recovery, an organization dedicated to preventing all forms of substance abuse and providing positive alternatives for those battling addiction. He regularly competes in triathlons to bring awareness to his organization. And what I want to dive into right away, because that's just the standard bio for Todd, he's got two new items, which is a live stream of his signature support meeting and also a live success story on Fridays noon. Did I get that about right, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate on that, or you want to?
No. I'm not. I'm done.
And that's our show. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. No. I'm done. So Todd, tell us a little bit about each one of those and tell our listeners how they can find it.
Well, let me get back to how this started. So, got sober in 1993, started doing some Ironmans and some other things. And I formed Racing for Recovery in 2001, simply to do something different than what was currently offered. And it's not to bash what is currently offered in the traditional format. It was to do something different. So when I formed Racing for Recovery, I wanted to have a support group meeting that everybody who's been affected by addiction could attend, not just people like me and you that have done a bunch of drugs. I wanted our families and our friends in the community to be in there. So that was a unique and cutting edge approach to starting a format back in 2001. And over the course of doing Racing for Recovery, I received phone calls or emails from people literally all over the world. And they'll say things like, Todd, how can I get Racing for Recovery in New Jersey or California? So in my mind, I'm like, how can I make our Thursday meeting, which gets about 130 people a week, how can I bring this to everybody's living room? And we had some people who donated some money to help us invest in the equipment to make that possible. And about a month ago, we launched our live stream of the support group meeting. So now if we have somebody here from out of town who's in for treatment, their family who's back home in Idaho can now watch the support group meeting and see their loved one actually improving as their recovery goes, which I think it's awesome. It's really cool to be a part of. And then on Fridays at noon, we take one individual and just have them talk about how awesome it is to be sober, how Racing for Recovery has helped them, how good it is to be alive. And we just have that one individual success story via live stream as well. So two new things that we're offering via live stream format. So technology is a good thing.
So, and these are free.
Absolutely. They're free. And even in our support group meetings, we don't pass the hat or any of that stuff. I started this simply to give back and help others. So yes, the live streams are free. You can log on through our Facebook page or our YouTube page. On Facebook, there's a live chat going as the live video is playing. There's interaction between people all over the world talking. And it's all free.
Dude, this is magnificent. I love it.
Me too. Now, I love doing things that are innovative.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think back to what would I have wanted when I was first coming into this. And I'm like, well, let's do that.
There's a lot of different ways you can look at it too, because I know that we've had this discussion about how to bring more recovery meetings. People are like, how can I go online? Can you recommend online meetings? That kind of a thing. In the rooms is always the one that gets predominantly the most amount of requests or suggested to people that are looking for it, right? But it's also very, very private. Like you have to sign in, you have to log in. It's not like a live stream. Like not everybody can just like view in on YouTube. So there's going to be some people like, wow, isn't that kind of like a little invasive? Isn't it a little intrusive? Like you're just kind of live streaming the videos. have you had any kind of negative feedback at all about just having a live feed meeting?
Great question. And honestly, initially when we talked about it, there was maybe 5 people that said, hey, what about what you just described?
Mm-hmm.
95% of the people are like, all right, let's show them what we can do.
I love it.
You know, I have utilized the media since Racing for Recovery was formed, because if you don't utilize the media, how's anybody going to get a message?
Correct.
Right. And I'm honored that I'm sober. I'm grateful that I'm that way. So I want other people to see what you can do in your recovery. And that's how people feel coming into our groups. And it's interesting because one of the guys who said, I'm not coming in there, I don't want to be on camera, a week later, he's been on camera talking.
FOMO. It's FOMO, dude.
It's even funny because last week he comes in a meeting and then he raised his hand, and this is live streamed, right? And I made some comment like, weren't you the guy that didn't even want to be in the room while this was going? And we were laughing about it. Because it's okay to laugh, right? So, and that's
have you heard the term? Have you heard the term FOMO?
I have not.
FOMO is FOMO, which stands for the fear of missing out.
Ah.
So, that's a big social media, term, hashtag FOMO. All right. So this guy, textbook, right, is like, I'm not doing any of that. Wait a minute.
You know what? I got to write that down because that's his new nickname.
Yeah, dude. Hashtag FOMO.
Right. I love it. But it's true. It's like people, when they're in that room, here's the difference about Racing for Recovery. I don't want to hear the war story. I could care less about how much crack you smoked, how many bottles of beer you drank, and how many cars you crashed. It's like, we've all done it. Here's your trophy. What's next? We want to focus on the goodness of sobriety, the struggles that do come in sobriety, and how we overcome them to sustain sobriety and get out there and keep living. That's what Racing for Recovery does. So our support group meetings, yeah, there's some difficult stuff in this because people die out there, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a ton of goodness to celebrate, and that's what we focus on. Isn't this great to be alive? Isn't it great to reconnect with your fellow people who have been in the trenches of addiction? Isn't it nice to empathize with family and friends who have put up with our crap for all those years? And the family members get to learn what it's like on our side of the street. And collectively, it's just one big positive educational, motivational environment.
I love it. I love it. So another quick question. The format of the meeting, how is that? Did you make that up? Did you create the format? Because it's called, what's the name of it? They're just support meetings, or what do you call them?
Well, I created the format of having everybody in here. So here's what's different. Back when I first stopped using, I would go to meetings and it's, hi, I'm Todd, I'm an addict. Hi, I'm Steve, I'm an addict. Hi, I'm Sally, I'm an addict. And I'm like, I get it. We're all addicts, man. So at Racing for Recovery, we ask people to say who they are, why they're there, and how we can help. So what you hear at Racing for Recovery is, hi, I'm Steve. I'm here because I love the positivity. Hi, my name's Sally. I have a daughter who's struggling with addiction. I need to learn how to not enable her addiction. Hi, I'm Tom, and I'm here because I want to celebrate the benefits of being sober. If some people need to say, hi, I'm Joe, I'm an addict, I need to say that for my own recovery, go ahead and say it. But at Racing for Recovery, we see people as people, not labeling them with something that they did, not that they're currently doing. So
the idea is to focus on the why. You're focusing on, which is a big personal development question. Is like, what is your why, right? And once you discover what that is, right, what your why is, you start moving in that direction. All the answers kind of unfold from understanding exactly why I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing or seeking or looking for, or I need help with this. And so there's clarity of purpose.
You hit it right on the head. I'm amazed at when people come into my office for a counseling session, and I'll ask them some basic questions. And then one of the questions is, well, not your drug of choice. I ask them, how did you get here? And you see people that are all startled, and they look at me and they'll say, nobody talks to me the way you're talking to me now. Nobody wants to know what the trauma was when I was an early kid that led to low self-esteem, that led to a choice of using drugs and alcohol. Treatment, unfortunately, consists of, okay, go to detox, come out of detox, and we'll put you on some other form of drug, and then tell you to go to some support group meetings. And I'm like, wait a minute. We got to back up here. What happened to this dude who's an overall great guy? What happened that made him self-destruct? How do we help him learn about that, the impact of trauma that has on us? And then how do we implement a balanced, holistic lifestyle that helps him cope with trauma and live a life? That's what we do.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. It's a lot more in the realm of personal development and coaching than it is about the traditional therapy and counseling session, which I like that, because those are the kind of questions that I ask.
Absolutely. We're going to get along just fine in this interview.
All right. So give us now that we understand a little bit more about Racing for Recovery, we understand the meetings, guys, for those of you that are listening and watching, I'm going to have these links posted on the show notes for Todd. So you just click on those links and boom, the meetings, those live stream videos will pop right up. And also at the end, we'll get all your social media, websites, everything on how to get a hold of Todd. But in the meantime, what I like to do is I like to give people an idea of what it looks like in your normal daily routine. Someone who is clean, someone who has overcome. And now, what is your normal daily routine look like, including recovery for Todd?
This is going to flip some people out right now.
I love it when it starts like this.
Right. All right. Well, this part won't. So I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do when I take my first breath is like, I'm grateful I'm even alive today, man.
Thank you.
You know, so my eyes open. I'm like, all right, let's go. Feet hit the floor. I get up. I walk out. The first thing I do is a set of 25 push-ups. I've been doing that forever. I drop, I do some push-ups, and then I go downstairs to feed my pig Milo. I told you.
Okay. Is it a mini pig, or is it one of those giant, bacon pigs?
Well, he's a vegan pig.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm a plant-based guy myself.
Okay. Well, aren't all pigs vegans?
Well, if they're smart, they should be, or otherwise they're defeating the purpose, right?
No, it all depends on what we feed those poor animals. Okay, so yours is a vegan. I got you. Milo the pig.
So I go down, I feed Milo the pig because my daughter asked me years ago, Dad, I want a pig. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to have a pig, blah, blah, blah. And then I made the mistake that probably every father does, or some of us do. I said, if you ever come in contact with a pig that needs a home, sure, we'll take it. Thinking, never going to happen. And then one day she said, Dad, I found a pig. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, bring him in.
How big is this pig?
He was a little guy that has turned into a bigger little guy that I hope he doesn't turn into a big guy.
Potbelly pig then.
He's a mini potbelly pig that is like a mid-sized dog right now.
Got it. Okay. No, you're all right. You're all right.
Dude, on a serious note, this pig has changed my life, man. He's enhanced it. He's made me more compassionate, more empathetic, more humble, and more gracious of everything that I have. I mean, I love him. I feed him. Then I bring him upstairs. He lays on my lap. I check some emails with my computer on his butt while he's laying on me. And then I give him some treats and I go out for a run and I come back, take a shower, and head into the Racing for Recovery building and get going. That's how I start my day.
That is beautiful, man.
Minus two, I do have 4 kids. 3 of them are at home. So I talk to my kids, talk to my wife, do some dishes, try and do the normal things too. But the day starts off with taking care of my pig.
So, and this is a lot of what, when I'm discussing morning routines or daily routines, and a lot of why I bring this up in the first place is because it's those morning routines that give you the momentum to get through your day, right? And the more that you can do, then the better that you feel. And it's like, I get up in the morning myself, and it's the cats wake me up in the morning. I got two. I got Milo the cat. Okay.
Right on.
I got Milo the cat.
All right.
And so, so they wake me up in the morning. I got Chloe, I got Milo. I go and I feed them in the morning. I clean the litter box.
All right.
So I make sure that they get their day started. They've got their food. They get the clean litter box. And chances are I won't have to deal with that again until tomorrow or the next day. Then I kind of like get up. I go do my meditation. I do a little prayer, thank you, God, right? Guide me through this day, right? And then I'll listen to some kind of motivational podcast or something like that. And then when my wife gets up, then we walk Rumi. Rumi is our Brussels Griffin, right?
Okay.
Right. And then we have a maid that comes twice a week, and twice a week. So twice a week we don't make the bed, and the rest of the week we make the bed.
All right.
So I'm that firm believer that make the bed is that final touch, right? Of like, okay, so what's next? Right? Like, I'm awake, I'm on fire, let's go. So is this a similar kind of a deal that you got going?
Spot on, brother. But here's the thing. If I made the bed, my wife would still be in it. So I don't know how that would work. It might, I'll try.
No. But that's where the dishes come in.
Right. See, in the brownie points follow that.
Yes, absolutely. My wife's is always like, I really appreciate the fact that you don't have problems doing the dishes, right? I'm like, doing dishes? I mean, seriously. And for those of you that don't know this, right, there is magic after, you clean the dishes and you wipe down the sink, and it's like, damn. It's almost like when you're done washing the car.
Right.
There is that. Okay, so that's where we're connected.
Absolutely. So and I do that, even minus the pig. I've been doing the same thing for years, because consistency is a good thing.
Yes.
When you find something that's good and you consistently apply that, things are going to run okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or if things don't go okay, because of your consistency, you're able to cope with it effectively to not let the train derail.
Yes. Yes.
And that's definitely, and I'm being dead serious. This is the thing that I hear of a lot of people that when they come back in and they have made a choice to use, because I'm not a relapse or I had a slip guy. I can't tolerate those words. I ask them, well, what happened? And usually it's something of the fact of something happened. I felt some way that I chose to use drugs again to cope with it. And that's part of what Racing for Recovery and I do as a clinician, is to help people build a balanced, holistic lifestyle on a consistent basis so you're able to handle life's hardships. Unfortunately, a death of a loved one, you lost your job, your pet dies, whatever, your roof falls in. It's like, okay, here's my scenario. I'm not going to get high over this. And because I did some things in the morning that helped me, I'm going to be able to handle this. That's how people put time together.
Absolutely.
Right?
There is that, and going back on the key word there's an emotional state. It all boils down to an emotional state. And if we can focus our attention on that emotional state and start asking ourselves better questions in that state, right? That gives us that buffer between like that immediate desire or urge or craving or whatever it is to go back out and use, because you do not want to feel that emotion. You do not want that feeling. So if you're able to just kind of sit with that for a moment and just kind of, and that's what we teach people how to do. It's like, okay, well, let's identify this. And instead of self-sabotage to numb it out, this is just an opportunity for growth. Right. And it does take time. We talk this stuff and we make it sound easy, but that emotional state's tough.
I love this conversation, but let's break this down. So what we're actually saying is, okay, I'm having a thought to use. Does that automatically mean I have to self-destruct? And the answer to that is no. It gives us an opportunity to say, as you said, why is this going on? Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, people with respect to emotions, people are using because we're going through negative emotions, or Why do we think we have to celebrate with self-destruction? Because we're having good emotions.
Yes.
It's sunny outside. That means I need to go smoke crack. It's like, wait a minute. No, it doesn't. It means it's sunny outside. God gave us this awesome day with the sun. Let's go for a run. Let's go for a walk. Let's go volunteer somewhere. Let's read a book. Let's help somebody out. It doesn't mean I have to celebrate by self-destructing, right?
Yes, yes. And at the same time, though, as much as this conversation is very clear, right, to you and I,
Yep.
okay, the idea of someone in early recovery, and just, it's almost like you just need to identify, or we just need to kind of bring to light that all you're going through is an emotional state. It's an emotional state that you're going through, and you're uncomfortable, right? So again, we're breaking it down into tiny little bite-sized, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So then it's just, okay, there's an emotional state. Okay, I'm uncomfortable, right? Why am I uncomfortable? Okay, what are my possible, solutions for this? Okay, I could make a call, right? I could just leave the house, run, just get out of the house, change the environment. Changing the environment can also change your state, right? So there's these little things that we can do that, how much clean time do you have, Todd?
I'll have a quarter of a century on April 15th.
Okay, so see, and that's another thing too. When we're talking about 25 years, all right, then for us, this is very second nature. But we have to I feel it's very important for anyone who's listening to this, take a walk. What do you mean take a walk? Right? It's like, look, if you can just recognize that all you're going through is a negative, it's an emotional state followed by negative self-talk, right? And all you need is to just kind of get to somebody, right? And just go, this is how I'm feeling, right? Before you do anything else. Take that pause to ask better questions if you can. That's what this whole conversation for me, when I launched the SHAIR podcast, right? And Race for Recovery, and even what we're doing right here, right now is changing the dynamic, the stigma, the mindset, the history, all of the negativity around recovery. And we're just trying to create it and talk about it in a way that's super inclusive and just easy to digest, little by little. Here's where I'm at. Oh, so this is what's happening to me. Okay, I'm uncomfortable. All right, so you say, okay, well, that's what's happening. I'm emotionally, this isn't feeling right. All right, so this is where I'm supposed to call somebody, right? Or this is where maybe if I just walk outside the door and get some sunlight on my face, I'm gonna feel different somehow, because we're just trying to change your emotional state, right? You follow me on this, Todd?
Absolutely. So the guy that's listening to this, and you brought this up, we got to remember the first guy coming into this.
Yes.
I wish I saw this podcast on my first day of sobriety, because I felt it. I knew I was going in another direction. And I want to make this crystal clear to people that I got arrested for my third drunk driving charge on April 15th, 1993. I blew a .36 at noon. From that moment on, I believe God gave me a wake-up call, and also my dead mom who killed herself from this stuff, that simply said two things. A, I'm done. And when I say I'm done, I mean it's over. B, I know I'm going in another direction. I don't know what that looks like or what it's going to consist of, but I know I'm going to get it. So when someone turns this on and they see us laughing and joking, but yet being serious,
yes,
I want them to go, I want that.
Yes.
And in Racing for Recovery's second book, it's titled There's More Than One Way to Get to Cleveland. One of the key focuses that we mention in there is we have to create a new normal. And let me elaborate on that. What I'm talking about is right now, when you're in addiction, you think your normal is suicidal thoughts, despair, isolation, loneliness, jail, all that stuff. And I understand that. But what we can do is create for you what you think is abnormal, i.e. recovery and laughing and traveling the world and having an education and not wanting to kill yourself every day. That seems abnormal. Through consistently living a balanced, holistic lifestyle, what is abnormal becomes normal, and what is normal becomes the abnormal. That's what I want that listener right now who's watching us going, these guys are nuts. I'm like, yeah, that's right. And you too can do this. That's the same thing, even with like the physical stuff that I've done. I'm not doing Ironmans to say, look at me, I'm an Ironman. I'm like, dude, you can do anything in your recovery.
It's true. It's true. It's true. If you want it bad enough and you put in the work, the difference between recovery and, you know, living in the world of addiction, one has instant gratification, the other one has delayed gratification. One has really nasty, horrific consequences, and the other one has amazing gifts, you know, that happen and that just present themselves. The harder you work, the more time you have from that last drink or drug, the better your life gets, right? But it doesn't happen in an instant. You're going to have to do some work, right? One of the things too, and the barrier too that I find for many people is this whole idea of the spiritual aspect of our lives, right? Like, I'm not even going to say of the program, I'm going to say of my life, because for me, spirituality, when it comes to my core values, spirituality is number one, right? So for me, my connection with my higher power comes first. And in a lot of cases, when I'm talking to somebody who's new, it's like, I just can't wrap my head around that whole spirituality thing. Like, what is your daily routine? Like, I pray and I meditate in the mornings, right? And for me, my day doesn't get started, or I don't make decisions without consulting my higher power. What does your routine look like for spirituality, and what is your relationship with your higher power, Todd?
This is a great question. So as I mentioned before, you know, my mom killed herself when I was 3 because of her addiction. Who is that? Milo, or no, that's the dog.
This is Rumi.
What's up, Rumi?
What's up, Rumi? Rumi, look, Rumi. This is the most amazing dog on the planet.
He looks like we have a dog named Brady that looks somewhat like him.
He is a Brussels Griffin, and he is the Chewbacca, the Ewoks. This is where the Ewoks came from, and this is the very famous dog from As Good as It Gets.
Right on.
And he is my son. He is the most amazing. All right, so that's it. All right,
I love pets.
We're there.
So, I'll even tie it into pets and stuff too. So I've been affected by suicide and addiction. My mom killed herself. My uncle killed himself, and my aunt killed herself. Oof. My mom and uncle were addicted to drugs and alcohol. My aunt was addicted to food. 3 out of 4 kids committed suicide. So as a young kid, I grew up not having any sense of self-worth, self-respect, dignity, nothing. So the concept of God or anything on a spiritual level, I wasn't good enough for that. Even in my sobriety for the first, 10, 12 years, I used to describe my sobriety date as like, oh, a light switch came on and I quit. Well, then being around a lot of cool people who were more versed in godly like living than I was, they started saying things like, well, who turned on the light switch? Right? And that's where I started going, oh, well, I believe that, as I said, that God and my mom turned the light switch on, and then it was up to me to keep the thing on and go do something with that light. So to answer your question directly, like I said, I wake up in the morning and I'm grateful that I'm alive, that I have another opportunity for the day. And then what am I going to do with God's gifts? Physically, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, socially. What am I going to do today with the blessings that I've been given to help myself, to help somebody else have the same? You know, I did an interview years ago on the Larry Elder Show, and he asked me, why didn't you just get your life together and go about your business? And I remember without missing a beat, I said, because I wouldn't deserve what it's been graciously given to me. You know, I've started Racing for Recovery because I found something that was working for me that I knew would work for everybody else, or not everybody, for a lot of other people. And it's been my life's work to give it back. When you find purpose, your purpose is then to share that purpose so someone else can find their purpose.
Man, that is beautiful. Perfect. That is exactly how I feel, right? And I even love like the mantra, because it's how I kind of put it as how I try and kind of formulate the words in the mornings, but what am I going to do today with the gifts God gave me? Because we were all given special gifts. And if we don't recognize those, then it's impossible for us to be grateful. Like those are the people that can't find purpose. The next part is, once you find your purpose, right? So you discover what your purpose is, at the same time you're discovering what your gifts are. So this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm really good at. I'm going to become the best at this now. I recognize that I have talent in this. Now I'm going to work on this. That just explodes into what is my passion. So that becomes my passion. And then all of a sudden my purpose is, like for you and I, to help as many people connect with this as possible, because it's changed my life. It's changed your life. It can change your life.
I'm going to give you an example. So I come into our Thursday night support group meeting, and there's a new young man in there, and he said, "Hey man, are you the guy that was on ESPN that I saw?" And I go, "No, that wasn't me." And I was just messing with him, right? And I go, "Yeah, that was me. And my name's Todd. Nice to meet you." And I started thinking about that as I went up to start facilitating the meeting. And I said, the purpose or the gift that I have is not to be, on ESPN or to do these great podcasts like that. It's so somebody can see it and then say, if that's what recovery looks like, how do I get that? Because that's what I want. I didn't want to quit using drugs and be miserable. So like with this young man the other night, I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm thankful to have you in Racing for Recovery so we can shoot this thing live tonight, that when you talk, somebody in Albuquerque, New Mexico is going to hear it and go, look at that young dude. That's what's cool. That's the stuff that I love, man. I mean, it's taking the gifts, whether it's a media thing or whatever it is that I'm fortunate to do in my life, which is a lot, and simply relating it back to that individual and keeping it level, not a hierarchy, just keeping it level and going, dude, you can do whatever you want in this thing too. That's called humility, right?
Repeat that. I just cut into you.
That's humility.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the more that we're able to sit quietly, right, connect with our higher power, right, of course, being clean, connecting with that source and asking that very important question, right? What am I going to do with the gifts that God has been given to me? So I need to be able to, and if I don't know what they are, then the first step is, God, help me identify the gifts that have been given to me. And the thing is, the things that come the easiest to us, we take for granted. Those are our gifts, right? Like they used to tell me, man, oh, you're too loud, right? Like, take it down. Can't you just like chill out for a minute? You're too loud. I'm like, oh, maybe I should tone it down a little bit. No, that's my gift. You know what I mean? I'm loud, hey, like, why do you have to get so excited all the time? That's my gift. If I want to get up on stage, right, and give a presentation, right, and help people understand what it feels like to be clean, to live a life beyond your wildest dreams, I can't do it, talking like this, right? Like you don't really remember any of those guys, but I can't tell you how many times I've come off of sharing my story or getting in front of a group of people, and letting them know about my recovery, my journey, what I went through and what my life is like today. And people not coming up to me and going, dude, I totally related with this and I totally related with that. And I couldn't understand the God thing before, but now I know the way you express it, it's that way. So there's certain things about you that just come natural and come easy. Those are your gifts. And you can't shy away from those. And you can't let anybody tell you that, no, you can't be doing that, or you shouldn't be doing this, or try and tone it down, right? Run away from those people and find the people that embrace who you are just as you are. And that's how you evolve. And that's how you're able to like live in these gifts. And the more that you live in and the better you get, right, the more impact you make in the world. Simple as that.
Well, and the first thing we have to let people know is you're not going to find that in a bong, a beer, a crack pipe, a line of blow. You're not going to find that there. You know, oh, I got to smoke this joint because it's going to bring me inner zen. It's like, no, it's not. You're going to sound like a bozo who smoked pot.
Yes.
Right? You find, just like you said, it's like, you don't want to tone that down, turn it up.
Yes.
Right?
I like that.
That's exactly what it is. Get out there and live. Put the same tenacity that you put into destroying yourself. When that is applied to bettering yourself, look out, because it's a never-ending journey of self-betterment, man, and it's great.
No.
That's what's cool, man, you know? Right?
So here's, I know that you don't like doing the war stories. You already said that in the beginning of the interview, all right? But part of the SHAIR podcast, my listeners do love the story.
I'll give them some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd jump in. All right. So the next parts of the program, I'm gonna, first of all, before we dive into your story, right, I just want you to tell us what it was like, briefly, the first time you drank or used drugs, and how did they make you feel?
Took my first sip of alcohol in 8th grade at the age of 13. Knowing it was wrong, knowing I was making a huge mistake, but the curiosity got the best of me. I just wanted to see what it tasted like. Took a couple sips of beer and didn't get drunk, but knew I had just stepped onto a path that I knew was not probably going to be good. And fast forward a few months, I got arrested for the first time. That's a different story. But the second time I drank, yeah, that's a different story. But the second time I drank was my first Friday of my freshman year in high school, and I drank a fifth of Jack Daniels and took some speed with it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Go big or stay home.
Well, and it was like that every single time for the next 13 years. And that shows a couple of things. The predisposition, genetically, you know,
Yep.
I'm one of those.
Yep.
The emotional hurt that I was going through, that was me. No self-esteem, no self-respect. And the cognizant choice that I made to try it, and then I was off and running. And the first time I did that, I remember my friends told me I passed out, was turning blue, puking on myself, the whole deal in front of our high school football stadium. And they took me back to my buddy's house where I started drinking. They put me in his bedroom and shut the door. And I could have died. You know, instead of dying, I pissed on my friend's coat, which, you know, was better than dying.
Yeah.
But I woke up the next morning, and this is, it's funny and it's sad and it's educational in the same moment. I walked downstairs. I felt sicker than I'd ever been in my life. I didn't know what I had done. And when I came downstairs and my friends all had that look of horror on their faces, and then they started talking about what I had done the night before, they were laughing. I was mortified. So all the feelings of I'm not good enough and I'm terrible,
Beautiful.
They were exacerbated. And just like I did 1,000 times, and so is everybody else, I said those magical words, I'll never do this again. And then the next weekend, I did it again.
All
and
right.
again and again.
We are all warmed up, Todd. That's where we're segueing. So it's time for you to tell your story, the battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life when you hit rock bottom, and then finally your journey into recovery up until today. But I want to start with when you were arrested in 8th grade.
Good.
So take it away. That's
as
so
soon
good.
As I said that, I'm like, I know he's going to circle right back to that. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and this is all part of the problem, right? I'm in 8th grade. I'm hanging out with some good guys, but they were troubled kids, man. You know, one's dad took off on him when he was a young kid. He didn't know who his dad was. Another kid was having family problems, and we were we snuck out of the house, and they were robbing cars. And I knew the difference between right and wrong, so these guys are breaking into cars, stealing, cassette tapes or 8-tracks, whatever was big back then. And I remember we're walking along this condominium, and on the level floor where we were was another level, and you could see into this condominium. And this guy and this girl were in there about to do some physical activity. And me being the young punk that I was, I yelled a couple of things into the window and didn't think anything of it for the next couple minutes as we strolled on by. Well, this young man comes running out of the house in his underwear, and he was mad. And I hear this, hoo, hoo, hoo. And I turn, and this dude is booking after me down the street. My two buddies go like this. I turn around and go, oh my God, I'm sorry. And he flipped me over on the ground, put his knee on my chest, and raised his hand back like he was going to cock me one. And I just pleaded, don't do it. He grabbed me and marched me back to his house, and he called the police. And two cool things happened. My one friend who was smart stayed away. My other friend that was showing support comes marching up and goes, yeah, man, I was with them too, and sat down on the curb waiting for the cops to come with me. That shows loyalty.
Yes. I was about to say, you know what? I'm going to give him a fist bump.
Absolutely. This same guy also introduced me to Black Sabbath, so he gets some kudos for that.
Man, it's win-win.
But he comes, and the cops come, and I get carted down to jail for being a delinquent, which on a serious note, I wish a counselor like me would have talked to me at that point. I needed help, man. I needed help. All three of us needed help, but it didn't happen. And that's nobody's fault but my own. But it's setting the stage. People who are going through trauma, young boys, the first sign of problems are they're acting out with crazy behavior. That's the first sign. So instead of giving medication to that kid or throwing him in the principal's office or telling him he's got oppositional defiant disorder or ADD or ADHD, ask him why he's out at 2:00 in the morning yelling obscenities in a window. Because that's not normal. Right? And that's part of what I was doing. So, I told you the story the second time I ever drank. And basically, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I drank to that level. At this time, I was also playing hockey, which could have led to a promising life in that. I wanted to be a pro hockey player. That was the only thing that gave me salvation and grace, was playing hockey. It's the only time I felt of value. It's the only time I felt self-confident. Everything else in my life, I was just scared to death of, inferior of. I didn't belong in anything, but playing hockey was it. But then making that choice to drink every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was drinking every time to the point of blacking out, getting in fights. My grades were suffering. I'm sleeping in cornfields or in our high school dugout, telling my parents I'm staying at Jim's house, and I'd be out all night walking around drinking by myself at 14 and 15 years old. That's a problem.
Yep.
There's nothing cool about that. There's nothing funny about that. It's sad. And I felt it. And then then you start going, well, this isn't working on the weekends. What else is available? So my junior year comes, I start smoking pot, taking Valiums, doing acid, doing Quaaludes, snorting drugs off of my desk during math class, smoking pot in class, selling drugs out of my locker, driving my van into the school because I'm wrecked on whatever pills, and then getting on the hockey bus and going to play hockey somewhere. It's just complete mayhem, absolute mayhem. I'm wearing a hockey jersey representing our school, and I'm snorting speed or snorting Valium off of my desk in class, and even Lila, who's our publicist now, kids were looking at me like, what is happening to this guy that was this funny, nice kid, great athletic ability who was turning into a monster. And, you know, by my senior year, I did cocaine for the first time. And, you know, once I did coke, it was like the jig was up, you know. Nothing in my life mattered at that point. It was like, I got to get this drug, dude. You know, I mean, everybody knows these stories, you know, and mine's no different. It consumed me. I've said this often in interviews. If there's a Satan, it's cocaine.
Yes.
I never
White
found.
devil.
Yeah, absolutely. I never found anything that controlled me, and I didn't like it. I didn't. I feel like the Master of Puppets song by Metallica is so fitting for cocaine use. I'm like, this thing is controlling me, and I'm the least person to be controlled. But it did, and I was kicked off. I got expelled from high school for doing about a quarter ounce of cocaine on a hockey bus going to one of our games. You know, and the amount of cocaine is irrelevant. Here's what is relevant. I had the audacity to sit in the locker room, putting on my hockey equipment, where I was privileged to play a sport that I loved, and I was snorting cocaine in front of my teammates, doing it on the hockey bus on the way home I didn't care who saw me. And I got caught and was expelled from high school. And I remember my hockey coach calling me and saying, I can't believe you did this to me. And that was the first time that I thought, wow, my choices are affecting other people. It's not just about Todd. But I didn't have any intentions of quitting. You know, and from then, and I want to speed this up because it just gets boring to me, really. The next, 7 or 8 years were cocaine fueled, 2/5 of whiskey a day, jails, beating up my parents. I ended up living in Florida as a homeless crystal meth addict.
Beating up your parents?
Yeah.
What do you mean beating up your parents? You mean your dad?
My dad did get remarried. I'm sorry. So when I say my mom, sometimes I refer to my stepmom, which I don't like calling her that.
Okay.
But October 6th of 1986, I came home drunk when I should have been at college, and I physically assaulted my parents, tried to bring a girl into my room, and my parents didn't like that. And I'm like, I get to do what I want. I own this house. Just an absolute out of control maniac.
Yes.
And I had a lot of hurt towards my mom's death and not feeling a part of my own family. And my stepmom is yelling at me. I'm yelling back at her. My dad comes into the room, and it just led to I beat him up, man. It's horrible. I beat him up. And that's what cocaine and alcohol do, right? And that's why, for me, talking about my past, there is nothing good in this. Nothing. Anytime I do a presentation, I don't stand up there and talk about, I did this and I did that. I talk about, I chose to do this, and these are the consequences of what my choices did. They hurt people. They hurt innocent people. And that was my life for 13 years. It was chaos. It was lies. It was emotionally tormenting people that had nothing but my best interest at hand. And it made me feel ashamed, disgusted, suicidal, and I just didn't want to live anymore in that state. When I woke up every morning, I was mad that I woke up. And that's what drugs and alcohol brought me. I mean, that's my story in a nutshell. You know, it's like everybody else's. You know what I mean? I guess, I'll tell you, Omar, I don't even know what else to talk about that. You know, I mean, I said,
listen, at this stage, right? we can easily segue into your bottom, right? And what sent you into recovery?
Well, let's do this too, because people talk about rock bottom. Well, I should have had and could have had a quote rock bottom the second time I ever drank, right? I chose not to. My rock bottom wasn't a rock bottom. It was the greatest gift God ever gave me, and that was to get arrested for the third time. I was happy I got arrested. I was relieved. It was over. You know, I'm like, I'm done. This is it. I was driving a car that I could have killed anybody. And here's where it's cool. So I evidently, and this was told to me because I was in an absolute blackout, I pulled into an oil change facility to use the phone because I got a flat tire, you know, and in the process of talking on the phone to a friend to have him come pick me up, I was so wasted. I took down my pants and pissed all over the guy's office and his desk. Now you get a picture of that, right? That's funny. I'll give you that. It's funny.
I did. I'm totally picturing it.
Right? That's like somebody coming in right now and saying, excuse me, Omar, I know you're conducting some business. Can I use your phone? And then pissing on your desk right now.
Yes, that is, dude.
It's out of control. And it's like a Tuesday morning.
Oh.
You know? This isn't
It's fucking better.
Day, right? It's not like St. Patrick's Day
Right.
at 2 in the morning, man. This is at noon on a Tuesday. So I get arrested. And the weird thing about this, there was a kid who was working in that oil change facility who saw that. 15 years later, I'm on some Detroit radio show recounting this story, promoting my first book, right? And that same kid who was now battling his own alcohol addiction hears me on the radio. And he's like, no way is it that guy. And it was. And he contacted me and he got help through Racing for Recovery. And his story is in our second book.
Oh, man.
That's cool.
That's HP, baby.
Right.
That is HP. That's higher powered. I love it.
Now that's cool.
Ooh,
right?
I got chills, dude.
Right.
Wow. I love those stories.
That dude's been with me on when I did a 50-mile run in St. Croix. He's gone down there with me to that. He's an avid biker, bicyclist, you know, just an overall great guy. But that's a cool story. I guess from that moment on, from April 15th to this very moment, I have been on a constant quest to better myself physically, spiritually, emotionally, socially, intellectually, and then giving it back through Racing for Recovery. I picked up my hockey career again. I managed to play semi-pro hockey after not being on the ice for 10 years. And after I did that, I found that crazy little event called the Ironman triathlon.
Jesus.
I'll say little, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, to put the Ironman in perspective too, I used to watch it during my drug days. I remember, you know what? I'm going to show you.
That's going to be me one of these days, man.
So check this out. See this picture?
Uh-huh.
This picture my dad took of me my senior year playing hockey. All right. It's very special to me. But back in my coke days, when I was all depressed, I would snort cocaine off of that picture, which is a message in itself, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm doing cocaine off of that picture and I'm watching the Ironman on television. And I'm thinking to myself, I want to do that event someday. And when I was done playing hockey, I decided I'm going to start doing Ironman. And I picked it up. I've done 28 of them around the world since 1999. The Ironman, you swim 2.4 miles, you bike 112 miles, and then you run 26.2 miles. In 2001, I came back from New Zealand after doing their Ironman, and our local newspaper ran a story about my life. It's, you know, it's like from addict to Ironman. I was married at the time. I was starting to have a family. Ironically, I was a pharmaceutical sales representative. Yes, that's funny.
This is really, the irony is just, it's too much.
I keep getting that, don't they? So, but I was selling a drug for external genital warts, so I was safe there. Right?
It's the comedy.
It's crazy.
It's like, is this real?
You can bring her in. My next client's coming in. I've got a session. I'm going to bring her in so she can chuckle at some of this stuff too. But so literally, that's my life. You know, I'm married at the time. I had 2 beautiful kids. I'm selling a drug for external genital warts. I've got a company car. I got my own house. And of course, I've made it, right? In society's eyes, I've made it. I was more suicidal, I think, during this time than I'd ever been in my life because I hadn't found me. So when that newspaper article came out, the response from that article was overwhelming, dude. I mean, cops that had arrested me were calling the house. Guys I did drugs with were writing me for prison. My family, family members who hadn't seen me in years, all these people were calling the house and they were like, dude, I can't believe you're alive and I can't believe what you're doing in your recovery. And this is where I believe I got another gift from God that said, you can do something with this. You can do something to help somebody else. And that's when I formed Racing for Recovery in 2001 to help prevent kids from becoming people like us and to show people like us, their families and society that recovery is possible. That was all I wanted to do. Not make money, not be on television, just do something. And our original concept was to do an annual 5K run the way Race for the Cure did for breast cancer. And that's what we've been doing for 17 years. We do an annual 5K run. And over the course of sobriety and working this program, I've gone back and got a master's degree in counseling. I'm licensed as a clinical counselor. I'm licensed as an independent chemical dependency counselor. And I've built, with the support of people, we have built a federally approved nonprofit that has, 13 support group meetings. We have yoga support group meetings. We have soul core support group meetings. We have counselors on staff. We do drug and alcohol assessments. We do interventions. We do educational groups. I've done speaking engagements all over the place, written a couple books, have some movies, blah, 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 blah. That's all good.
And it all came from contribution.
Absolutely. You know, there's two things in this. One choice to start using drugs prevented me from doing anything I wanted to do in life. One choice to stop using drugs has given me everything I was searching for in drugs and so much more.
You know, the thing that I want to touch on the most before we go into the closing questions is I'm curious. One of the biggest things that people deal with, and it's not just addicts, but I mean, more than anything, I deal with people who are recovering from substance abuse, right? And so what I find is, like, when we talk about the childhood trauma, so much of it comes from guilt and shame. And so when you talk about that moment, with your parents, and I mean, we're talking, that's just one moment. That's just one moment where you had that altercation, that physical altercation. I even have a tough time saying you had a fight with your parents. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Let's say what it is. I assaulted them. Yeah. It's easier for you to say it than for me to even say it, right? Because it just brings up these feelings. So for people that are listening, right, and they are just buried in just in this in waves of guilt from the wreckage of the past, right? What was it that you did, right? It could have been everything that you've done, but was there anything in particular that you were like, I've got to just step away from this guilt and shame because it's eating me alive, and it's creating limiting beliefs and preventing me from becoming, because we're talking about 2001. You got clean in 93, right? Yeah. So from 93 to 2001 is almost 10 years. That's right. So before you started Racing for Recovery, you had to recover yourself. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. And Ashley, sorry I'm doing this interview.
That's okay.
I have a client that just came in. Can you say hi?
Yeah.
Check this girl out. This is Ashley.
What's up, Ashley?
Hi.
Fist bump. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
She's awesome. I'm running a few minutes late, but yeah.
You're fine.
She's a testament of everything that I believe in. She's over there nodding her head while you're talking and stuff. And I'm privileged to be working with people like Ashley. You know what? There's a big difference between not using drugs and accumulating things. And when I say that, I don't want to say I wasn't a fraud, because I've been open and honest about everything my entire life with this. I was doing a lot of things early in recovery. I was quickly redoing the build up, doing the scramble, getting an education, getting a job, having a family, and going, okay, am I good enough for sobriety now? Am I okay? I wasn't. I was lost, man. I still was that same dejected, broken kid.
Yes.
But I just accumulated some things and was wearing a suit and tie. That's when my life really started to change, was when my pharmaceutical company fired me for started racing for recovery, and I started losing things. My house was taken away. It went into foreclosure. My cars were taken away. My marriage suffered. I was broken more than I ever was in my addiction. But you know what? It gave me an opportunity to find out who I was and what I needed. And what I needed was to find out why I hated myself. That was the core. I didn't feel a value to nothing. That's why God wasn't in my life back then. I wasn't good enough. And running Ironmans or having an $80,000 a year sales job didn't mean nothing, because I didn't find value in me as a person. And when I looked at myself and was like, dude, man, you're broken. What's the problem? And I'm still working on that today. I'm better than I was, but I still struggle with the whole self-esteem type deal and everything, because I don't think I'm just a guy that quit drinking and constantly wants to improve on getting better. That's it. That's what I do. I'll be doing it with Ashley when we're done, and everybody else. I'm like, where's your hurt? How did that affect you? How can we help you to start healing from that in a non-self-destructive manner? How does God play a role in your life? How does nutrition play a role in your life? How does exercise and community and giving back, how does that help you heal so that you can find value in self? That's sobriety. I'm not using, but I still hate myself and life sucks. I don't want that.
So
right?
did you navigate so you're still in what we would say, you're still navigating through the self-loathing?
No, I mean, I don't
Okay.
hate myself the way I used to. Okay. I've gotten better. I've improved a great deal. But I don't look at myself as cured or fixed. I'm a heck of a lot better than I was. And I know when I keep doing tomorrow what I did today, I'm going to be even better. And that's cool. I want that. I want a constant new version of myself moving forward.
The thing is, by the way, I love this conversation. The whole idea, and I love talking about guilt and shame. I love talking about self-loathing, because that's where I came from.
Yeah.
And that's that whole thing about when you were talking about on the school bus doing lines of cocaine in front of your school members. It just means I don't care, right? Yeah. I am looking for someone to look at me and say, "Hey, why are you doing this?" I am provoking. This is not something, there's something, I know I'm doing something wrong, yet I'm doing it. And until somebody points it out to me, I'm still not getting the attention that I'm looking for, because that, to a certain degree, I am looking for love. I'm looking for attention, and I'm not getting it from here, and I'm not getting it from here, and I'm not getting, but whenever I act out, whenever I do stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing, I get this attention. So I'm looking for attention in any way that I can get it. Right. And even this whole thing about my parents. So like going through this social acceptability does not equal recovery. So I can have the great job, and I can have the marriage, and I can have the puppeteer show. But if I don't connect with who I am, and I don't embrace the fact that's like everything that I went through in my life is going to help everyone I come in contact with. I had to go through this.
I wouldn't be sitting here being able to talk with Ashley in a couple minutes if I was some dude reading this out of a book.
Correct.
Right?
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. And you've hit some core stuff with me. I was the kid. You're right. I I desperately wanted someone to fix me.
Yes.
But as soon as anybody came to me and said, dude, I care about you, I pushed them away
Yes.
because I didn't know how to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the kid that I was bleeding metaphorically. I needed open heart surgery. And anytime someone wanted to give me a tourniquet, I was like, I'm not good enough for the tourniquet. Give it to somebody else. So it was like, help me. I'm not good enough for help. That's the ultimate form of guilt and shame, is you don't even feel worthy enough of having a Band-Aid when your finger's bleeding.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I don't have my sense of value, my sense of self-worth, right? My identity, all just shattered, right? In a million different pieces. And I'm scrambling to put these things together, and it's too much of a mess. Right. And so go ahead. I see you.
So here's the thing. Now that I've gone and become licensed and all this clinical information that I know, here's where it started to make sense for me. When my daughter, Skylar, who was born 5 years to the day that I quit drinking, by the way, which was awesome. When she turned 3, my wife said to me, do you think if I killed myself today that Skylar would be affected by that? And it was like, oh my God, I get it. I saw me in her at 3. And I was looking at myself at 3, not as a grown man. And I never was the kid who was like, oh, my mom died, I'm going to smoke crack. That's not what I was thinking. But if the most important person in your life leaves you when you're 3, how are you supposed to find value in yourself? You can't. That's been the struggle for me. So when I encounter girls who have been sexually abused or boys that have been molested, there's no self-worth there. So people are self-medicating with food and sex and shopping and drugs and all these other things. Somebody fix me. This stuff's going to make me feel good. It doesn't work until we start to look at ourselves and go, man, I got to heal this broken soul from what happened to me, not what I deserved. What happened to me? And then what do I utilize to help me heal and go out there and kick life's proverbial butt and enjoy it, man? And that's what I'm doing in sobriety. That's what Racing for Recovery stands for, is with sobriety, anything is possible. You want to like yourself, that's possible. You want to get an education, you can. You want to travel, you can. You want to help other people, you can. You want to wake up in the morning with gratitude and pride, you can. And if you want to do an Ironman, yeah, you can go do that too. That's what it's about.
And recognizing that beautiful statement that your wife made as well. We get so caught up in our own shit that, you don't realize that your mother got caught up in her own shit. And I know
why she killed herself, man. I mean, I was right there. I get it. She just had the balls to do it, and I didn't. And that sounds, I don't want to freak anybody out, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad she killed herself, because if she didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, there it is. And there's
right?
the value. There's the value.
Yeah.
There's the value. Atrocities happen all the time.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's not like people aren't dying every single day from opiate drug abuse, from suicide, from opiate overdoses, from actual world climate issues, right? Different countries in the world where people are just literally starving to death, right? Yeah. Or being, it's like we get caught up in our own little universe. But the truth of the matter is, like, I can give myself a break when I realize that this happened to me for a reason, and now I can use this as my platform to save people's lives.
Absolutely.
Period. End of story.
That's now, Racing for Recovery in a nutshell.
There you go. Let's move on from here. All right. I love it. Damn. We could go on for like another 3 hours, dude. I feel like this is one of those ones where I go, this could be a Rich Roll episode. This could be a 3-hour one. All right. But we will close up for Ashley. All right. So I'm going to ask you some closing questions. But first, please tell our listeners, what's the best way they can reach out to you? Give us everything you got, all the websites about the live meetings, all your social media. Tell us how we can get a hold of you.
I want people to check our live stream out because we're the first to do it. I'm proud to say that. Innovative and unique, that's Racing for Recovery. So we have a website, racingforrecovery.org. We're on Instagram, Twitter. What are the other things? I'm on LinkedIn. Look up Todd Crandell or Racing for Recovery and all the things that people do social media-wise, and we're there. With respect to the live stream, check us out on Facebook every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll come right up on the Facebook page. It's also on our YouTube page, so subscribe to that. I sound like everybody else. Subscribe and like us.
Yeah, I know. I hate doing it too, but we got to do it.
We got to do it.
We got to do it. Got to live in that discomfort.
Again, subscribe and like us.
What's the name of the group? Is it just Racing for Recovery?
Racing for Recovery. Go to the Facebook page, Racing for Recovery. I'm getting a line across my face. And like it. You know, that's where the live interaction is on Thursday night.
Oh, it's a fan page.
A fan page? We're not that cool.
Yeah,
right?
no, you're very cool. And so it's the fan page. So on the fan page is where you have it. It's not a private group, so they don't have to join the private group.
Oh, no joining.
Perfect. This is even easier, guys.
Just like it and get on there. 7 o'clock Eastern, join it. You don't have to do anything.
Done. Okay, great. All right, perfect. So I will have that all listed on the show notes, right? With all the links where you can find Todd and Race for Recovery and the live stream. Racing for Recovery.
Yeah.
All right.
It's either Todd Crandell or Racing for Recovery. It's all kind of interwoven in one thing. We'll find it.
Go to my website. Todd Crandell show notes. All right. Now, awesome. So Todd, I want to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery, and I want you to respond with inspiring answers you can share with our newcomers. Are you ready?
Yeah. Are these quick? Is this like a rapid fire?
No. They're just 5 questions, right? And
okay.
I'm never rapid fire, right? I'm being mindful of Ashley.
Okay.
All right. So, number 1, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
My choice. I didn't want it. Let's be honest, man. You either want to get sober or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You either do or don't. There's no try, man. When people say I'm trying to get sober, I'm like, no, you're not. And I'm not trying to be a jerk.
No, it's true.
Right? You're trying to stay drunk. You know?
Like
you're succeeding. You're drunk.
I'm trying. Oh, I'm going to use that.
Right? You're trying to stay drunk.
You're trying to stay drunk.
You're trying to stay drunk, man. You're trying to work everybody else around you to buy into the crap still. And you want to drink and not have the consequences that come with drinking.
Yes.
That's not trying to stay sober.
Yes.
That's trying to figure out how to stay drunk.
Yoda, baby. Yoda.
Big difference.
Do or
don't
do.
Right.
Try not. Or
right.
I forget how he does it, but anyway, Yoda's better at
it.
it.
I didn't want it.
Huh?
I didn't want it. The only time I wanted this for myself, it stuck for almost 25 years. The only time I wanted it for me. Every other time I wanted it for somebody else. Didn't work.
Yes.
Didn't work.
100%. All right. So number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
Okay, I'm not a cliche guy, and I love the traditional meetings, okay? But I'm not powerless over anything. All right?
Okay.
I empowered myself to make a constant choice to not use that garbage anymore. That's empowerment. That's not powerless. Powerless is if I make a choice to put it in my system, then I'm powerless over what's going to happen for the next 6 months.
Yes.
But we got to flip this around, man. People are not powerless. You have the ability to empower yourself to get life to where you want it. I'm sorry to anybody that gets offended, but there are no slips. There are no relapses. You make a cognizant choice to stay sober or to get drunk, man. That's it. That's it. So,
and there is, yes, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say my spiritual, I don't want to call it my spiritual growth, my willingness to feel that I'm deserving of God's grace has started to really take hold in the past, I don't know, 5 years maybe. Did I start to become aware of it back in 2007? Yes, because I went to high school with a friend of mine who became a pastor, and he said to me, "You may not know Christ, but you are living Christ-like." And that I could understand. I could understand I was doing my best to do the right thing, but I still didn't feel that I was worthy to even be in that conversation. Now I feel I'm worthy to be in that conversation, and that's grace. That answers it that way.
And not only that, as far as grace goes, right? If you're deserving of God's grace, right, in this moment, my belief is you've always been deserving of God's grace, no matter what. And that applies to everyone. You know, God is either everything or he is nothing. You know, if God loves one of us, he loves all of us. If he doesn't love any of us, if he doesn't love one of us, he doesn't love any of us. It's all a blanket statement, right? So whenever you're in that state of disbelief or not deserving or unworthy, know that we are all under the same umbrella. We all are deserving of God's grace.
I got to say this too, and that's part of the reason why I talked about my pig, Milo, before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I've been strictly a plant-based nutritional guy for the past 2 years, because I believe that God's grace is applicable for all living things,
Yes.
not just some living things who think that they are all of living things. We can't discriminate against that, man. So that's what, again, that pig has done for me too, man. It's all living things across the board.
I love it.
That's God's grace, man. Yep.
It is. All right. So Todd, tell us the book that you would recommend to our newcomers that is your favorite book, either in early recovery or of all time. And then also tell us the books that you've written.
Wow. Well, my first book is, or not my first book, our first book at Racing for Recovery is called From Addict to Ironman. It's basically, I'm drunk, here's some stories. I'm not drunk, life is good, I formed Racing for Recovery. Our second book, There's More Than One Way to Get to Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I can put a clinical, I don't want to say expertise. I can say I can put a clinical reasoning behind the verbiage that I in Racing for Recovery utilize. And there's 10 success stories of people who have utilized Racing for Recovery's belief system to better themselves. It's cool. It deals with understanding trauma. It deals with how to create a new normal, as we talked about earlier. And it focuses on how living through a balanced, holistic lifestyle is really the cat's meow, if you will. Some other good books. I'm a huge Motley Crue fan. I love Nikki Sixx's book. There's a great book called Fast Girl, which is about an Olympian runner who battled bipolar disorder.
Oh, I like it.
I deal with people who are battling co-occurring disorders as well. I'm looking at my bookshelf over there.
I think we're good.
You know, I got to say this. You know what? Mike Tyson's book.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mike Tyson's book was awesome because I read the first page and I'm like, I know how this is going to go. And it's a 500-page book because he talks about trauma as a kid. And then all the stuff he went through with trauma, and then even becoming world champ and all the money didn't mean a darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's found some peace. So those are the books.
I love it. Okay. I'll have this listed, guys. Show notes. Todd Crandell. All right. So number 4, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
Whew. Man, I have never been asked that question before, and you stumped me.
What? Really?
I've never been asked that.
Okay. All right. The first time for everything.
What's the best advice I've ever received?
Best advice or best suggestion? Either one.
I'm going to say best suggestion. Do your best to start liking yourself.
Gold. See? Do your best to start liking yourself and then quickly move into loving yourself. That's the key. That's the alchemy of life.
I have, where is it? Love is tattooed on my arm somewhere. I forget where it's on. I have a couple of tattoos.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm jealous. I'm ready to sleep on, baby.
And it was a client that I don't like saying people's clients. It was a person who was in Racing for Recovery. I struggled with saying love in publicly. And her name is Katie. She would constantly say, "What's that word? What's that word?" And it's been in the past couple of years that I would say it. I love myself today. I love so-and-so. And just being comfortable enough in my own skin to finally use that word. There's a difference between having love for your kids and your family. But when you can say, I love myself today. I have a dear friend of mine, Chris, who texts me every day and says, "I love you, brother." And at first I'm like, man, I thought he wouldn't do it today. Dang. And then I'm like, he's making me work. And I write him back. I love you, man. I'll see you Thursday or whatever. You know, different race, different experiences, but he's a brother in Christ or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a good thing. So that's been the best advice, is to love myself.
I love it, man. I love it. Hashtag love yourself. All right. And then number 5, if you could give our newcomers only one suggestion, what would it be?
Stop self-destructing. You have to stop self-destructing in order to get everything that not self-destructing brings.
Solid.
I can't say it any better than that.
And that is how we're going to close. Todd, dude, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, right back at you, brother. This is cool. Now, you're gonna put it on YouTube?
Yes, this one will be on YouTube. So it'll be on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, not the video. And I'll have the podcast.
Okay.
The video will be on YouTube, and you'll have the link for that. I'll send it to you.
Thank you so much, man. I truly appreciate it, especially with that live stream, boy. People all over the world can tune into that now. That's incredible.
Let's not forget to get me on the show, buddy. Friday.
Yeah. Do you want to
when's the next slot? What do you got?
Yeah. Give me like a month.
Okay.
And I may ask you some questions on visualization, because I'd like to have the cameras the way you and I are talking right now. Ours right now is just a one shot. I'll talk to you about that off air and stuff, but we'll get to that.
I could even record it, right? And then you have it just like this. We have one.
Okay.
We're on each of us are on one side.
Watch us Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
Or there's some stuff up there right now. You can take a look at it and tell me how to perfect that. And when we're ready,
it will happen. It will happen. All right. Beautiful. All right. We have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.